Well, let the playoff race begin, and the road to the Super Bowl starts now. Let's talk football. All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the All Round Sports Podcast. So, sports are everything on this channel. I'm your host, Antonio, and man, we're finally here. We are going over my NFL wildcard predictions. Now, the week before in week 17, I went 12-4. This past week in week 18, I went 11-5, making my total record in the regular season 189-84, which is my best regular season record in my channel's history. But man, we got a lot of good playoff games coming up. You got a battle division rivalry in the AFC North, which I'll get into later. You got an amazing showdown between the Rams and Vikings. You got so many good matchups coming up, but we're gonna get all into all of that here in just a second. Before we do, if you all do enjoy this video, please be sure to do me a favor and smash that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. For now, let's get into predictions. But first, let's do the top uh, NFL power rankings before we get into the predictions. So we know there are 14 teams in the playoffs. So I'm leaving out all the teams that missed out. Although my Hawks should have been the one of the teams in there, but that's of course another story for another day. But my four honorable mentions are the Steelers, Bucks, Patriots, and Texans. These are my four honorable mentions on the outside looking in. Now, of course, the power rankings will be down to 8 next week when the divisional rounds hit, which I will rank them 1 through 8. But here is my power rankings from 10 to 1. Rams 10, Broncos 9, Chargers 8, Commanders 7, Vikings 6, Ravens 5, Eagles 4, Bills 3, Lions 2, and Chiefs at number 1. Now, even though the Chiefs lost, I'm not moving them all off of number 1 because they were starting their backup guys. I mean, you got to give them a pass whenever you're putting in your backups. But the Rams, I bounced them down a spot because they looked sloppy against Seattle, which I know it was Jimmy Garoppolo that was the quarterback, but I just don't trust them going into the playoff game against the Vikings. But I'll get into, of course, that in a little bit. But for now, let's talk about each of these playoff games and give my predictions. And the first playoff game to start us off, man, I was hoping for a hardball bowl, but this one might be even relatively more decent. You got the Los Angeles Chargers going on the road to H Town to take on the Texans. The Chargers being a shock of the year, literally, but the Chargers, first year head coach in Jim Harbaugh, and the 49ers have to now watch Jim Harbaugh play for another team in the playoffs.
Such irony!
But that's joyful for me because the 49ers are in last place right now. But the Chargers, this team has just been so surprising. You got Justin Herbert playing all world, which is what Jim Harbaugh does with the quarterback at this talent. And I went over them in a playoff in a video I did on the Chargers. I forgot to mention him as a contribution to that team. But you also got guys like Lad McConkey, J.K. Dobbins, Uncle Will in there. But this team is just scary, and I'm liking what they could probably do in this game. As they are taking on the Houston Texans that won their last week against the Tennessee Titans, but the Titans find themselves with the number one overall pick in next year's draft. But the Texans, they have been kind of an up and down team. One week they go out there and destroy an opponent, and then the other they have offensive line struggles. This offense has just been hurt to every corner. You got Tank Dell going out with a season-ending injury just recently. You had Stephon Diggs also getting hurt, but yet this team has still made the playoffs once again. But a thing I do look at this game and I find concerning for Houston is their offensive line. When you're going to have a defense like the Chargers coming your way, you need to be able to protect CJ Stroud. But you know what? I was originally thinking about going with Houston. But because of their offensive line struggles, I'm actually going to go with the Chargers. I believe Jim Harbaugh has changed the culture in LA, and I believe that the Chargers are going to win a playoff game, get to the divisional round, and who knows, maybe square off against the Chiefs because that would be interesting. Then on Saturday night, oh man, you have a third straight division matchup. And man, this one's going to be interesting. You got the black and gold incarnation of winners, as I call them, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who are they winners right now? Going on the road to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Man, these two sides have now met up in the playoffs for quite some time. All the way back when Joe Flacco was the quarterback for them. But man, this one's going to be a good one. The Steelers getting beat by the Bengals in the last week of the regular season, but it wouldn't have ultimately mattered because they fell out of the division lead. Literally. But of course, the Steelers, they've been kind of an up and down team. You got Russell Wilson, of course, making mistakes around every corner. You got receivers that can't catch, primarily in George Pickens. But this team, I just have not trusted them. And I said two things. One, if Russell Wilson does not play perfect, they are not going to win a playoff game. And number two, TJ Watt has not even been a factor, nor is that defense. Their secondary is trash. They've allowed a blowout against Kansas City, the Eagles, and the Ravens, and then went on to lose their last week against the Cincinnati Bengals in a close showdown. This team has just been a glaring team of frustration because they have a mediocre team, yet they're still winning. They're taking on the Ravens that have had playoff struggles, but Ravens probably licking their chops against this Steelers offense.
AKA Spider-Man, AKA the Spider Menace. But rest assured, dear viewers, we here at the Daily Bugle will not rest until we've uncovered the truth behind his web of lies. I'm Jay Jonah.
Because the defense has been looking relatively better for the Baltimore Ravens. And Lamar Jackson, this guy, I believe, is going to be a three-time MVP, back-to-back MVP. Well, ultimately, I would hope Josh Allen gets it. But this guy, Lamar Jackson, he has the team to get into a Super Bowl, but it's mainly the team itself getting in their own dang way whenever it comes to the playoffs. You have the AFC Championship game last year when they went where they were at home against Kansas City. They didn't run the ball at all in the second half. Now you got Derrick Henry on your side. So who knows? Maybe this team can make a run. But I'm going to go with the Ravens. The Steelers have been the same story, getting really high hopes up and then only to fall off because they've gone 8 straight years without a playoff win. I believe the Ravens will keep that streak continuing to 9 years. So I'm going to go with the Ravens to get the win over the black and gold. And then on Sunday morning, you got, oh man, this could possibly be an interesting game. You got the Denver Broncos going on the road to Buffalo to take on the Bills. The Broncos finally making a playoff appearance since the last time that they won a Super Bowl, which was with Peyton Manning.
Oh no, I was expecting a giant call.
But the Broncos, they were just a shocking story this year. They were declared to be one of the worst teams in the NFL by many people, including myself. But now they find themselves in the playoff picture for the first time in a while. And they finally lifted themselves out of the abyss. And it's a very interesting situation because there's 3 AFC West teams, yet the Raiders are still sitting out. They just fired Antonio Pierce. But this Broncos team, I think, can make some trouble. If they can get a good start against Buffalo, they might have a chance. But going against a Bills team, which I'll talk in a sec, that is going to be a very tall task, especially for a first-year rookie. They're going to be taking on the Buffalo Bills. The Bills have shocked everybody with them being the 3rd overall favorite to win the division at the beginning of the year. Bill fans finally again silenced the haters again. But this Bills team, they might have a chance to make the AFC Championship game. I do think if they meet with Kansas City, they might get knocked out there because for some weird reason, they can't show up when it comes to Kansas City. Well, we'll of course wait and see if that championship game is going to be a prediction. It is my early AFC Championship prediction. But of course, you got the Chiefs sitting at the 1 seed. The Bills will have to face them until the AFC Championship game ultimately. But the Bills, they have looked really good. Despite everyone thinking that without Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, they've actually gotten better. Their offense is starting to cook. Their defense is getting better with injuries returning, including Matt Milano, which he is a big piece. But I'm going to go with the Bills. I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills because the Broncos, although they are a good story, I just don't see them getting past a Buffalo squad that is looking to make it all the way this time. But I'm going to go with the Bills to get the win at home, and maybe, just maybe, y'all might get there this time. And then on Sunday afternoon, oh man, you got a potentially ugly game if you're Green Bay. You got the Green Bay Packers going on the road to Philly to take on the Eagles. Packers losing their last week of the season and had to, out of all the teams in the NFC North, it had to be the Chicago Bears. And I mean, this team is just a frustrating team. And now there is some concern because Christian Watson is now out for the season after tearing his ACL. You got Jordan Love possibly dealing with an injury, but it's a little doom and gloom in Green Bay right now. They're 7th seed, just like they were last year, but Cowboy fans are probably hoping that the same thing the Packers did to them last year, that the Packers do to the Philly. I'm not expecting that to happen, but they're going to be taking on the Eagles. That this was a first week matchup, and the Eagles originally won that matchup, and it was a close battle. Of course, everyone was still healthy at the time. And there's still question if Jalen Hurts is going to play. There's still question on that. And if he does play, I do believe he gives them a chance. And if it is Tanner McKee again, we already saw what he could do as a starter, and I like Tanner McKee just from what we've seen from him. He was able to beat up on a Dallas squad that was ripped up to heck. Then they were able to go against New York and beat them. But if Tanner McKee starts, I would go with the Green Bay Packers. But I'm going to rely on the health of Jalen Hurts. I'm going to go with the Eagles. I don't think the Packers are going to get far because of their injuries. Because we all know if one of their pieces are out, they're not the same. And it can't just be Josh Jacobs running the whole offense. So I'm going to go with the Eagles to get the win over the Green Bay Packers. In Green Bay, maybe next year. Then on Sunday night, you got a hot matchup. You get the Washington Commanders going on the road to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. The Commanders being the ultimate shock of the year. And of course, after the Commanders beat the Cowboys, they now don't have to deal with this anymore. having a second overall pick in Jaden Daniels, just like what we saw with CJ Stroud last year with the Texans. Jaden Daniels has turned this franchise around. And this franchise finally has something to be happy about. And this game is going to be close. The Commanders are going into this game as the underdog, I believe, because the Commanders are going to be really tested on the road. Because last time they faced Tampa Bay, it was before Jaden Daniels would actually go off. But this game is going to be a really good game. And I do expect Jaden Daniels to ball out. They're going to be taking on the Buccaneers. That, man, even with people thinking the Falcons can win the division, they still got it done again. But the Falcons ultimately choked it away because it's what they do. But the Bucs, they are a scary type offense. And you have Mike Evans hitting his 11th 1,000-yard season, straight 1,000-yard season, tying with the great Jerry Rice. And if he gets one more season with 1,000 straight yards, he would set history. And I'm hoping he does next year, just so the 49ers can suffer a little bit more. But this is going to be a really good matchup. I really like both sides of this matchup. But being played in Tampa Bay, we saw this last year when Philly went on the road into Tampa. They got absolutely bum rushed. But I'm expecting a very close game. But I'm going to go with the home team. I'm going with Tampa Bay. I believe that right now they are the more skilled team in this matchup. I do expect Jaden Daniels to put up a fight with the Buccaneers, but ultimately, I don't think he's ready for the long playoff run yet. If he does make it past the first round, then yay. Maybe they can have something going. But they would be playing a Detroit squad if of course, Green Bay doesn't win. But I'm going to the Buccaneers to get the win over the Commanders and Washington. You got a bright future. Good luck. Then on Monday night, you have a rematch of a very rigged Thursday night football game. You get the Minnesota Vikings going on the road to LA to take on the Rams. Or is it really on the road? But the Vikings didn't even post up a single touchdown against the Lions. This was just embarrassing. The Vikings, I had as an early season dark horse. I was not expecting them to be in contention for the 1 seed, but I was expecting them to make a playoff appearance, and here they are. But the Vikings, they've been kind of a 50-50 squad. They look good against some teams, but then do poorly against others. They're going to be taking on the Rams. Oh man, it should have been Seattle in the playoffs. But, of course, the Rams already clinched the week earlier as they had the strength of victory. But, of course, the Seahawks played against the Rams backups, which they beat. But, unfortunately, they were already knocked out to begin with. But the Rams, I have said this on a variety of occasions. If they're going to win a playoff game, they need to stay consistent. We saw this throughout the year. They win in overtime against Seattle, and then they went on to lose to Miami. Then they go out there and be a Patriot squad, and then lose to the Philadelphia Eagles that following week. Then you put up 44 points against the Bills, and then you don't even put up a single touchdown against the 49ers. This team has just been so inconsistent. Don't get me wrong. I love the way their defense is looking, especially with Jared Verse and Brendan Fisk and Cam Kitchens that should have still been a Seahawk. But, oh man. But this defense of the Rams, we saw this team go toe-to-toe with the Vikings a few weeks ago. But the Vikings would have won that game if that blatant face mask wasn't called. But I just don't And I don't trust the Rams in the playoffs, especially since they're at home, because their stadium has been taken over 90% of the year. And we saw that with Seattle fans last week. But because of the way the Vikings looked throughout the year and the way the Rams just go about consistency every once in a while, I am actually going to go with the Vikings. I know they didn't put up a single touchdown against Detroit, but they have the upper hand, and I believe they are the favorite in this game because the Rams, they've shown us last year when they faced Detroit, what happened? They went one and done. And even though that one was on the road, I just don't trust the Rams in the playoffs. They can make a deep run, but they ultimately can't because of their lack of consistency. Kind of like another team I know that I'm rocking right now. But I'm going to go with the Vikings to get the win over the Rams. And Rams, see y'all at the bottom real soon. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. Who do you guys think is going to win each of their playoff games? Let me know who and why down in the comment section below. Also, what did you think about my power rankings at the beginning of the show? What would you grade it if you had to grade A through C? But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor and smash that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, I'll see you all in the next one. Ciao for now.